What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. Today we're going to be talking about the Fanstoys Chomp and the Fanstoys Rig, which is their Huffer and Skull Cruncher, because these pre-orders came out of the blue. They were up for like 20 seconds. They sold out. Everybody got mad or happy depending on how that shook out for them, and then the world ultimately kept on spinning. But I think it's worthwhile to talk about. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about sort of how I feel about them. I have some interesting takes, and talking to a buddy of mine who, we've talked on Patreon before, so folks should be somewhat familiar with him. And also just sort of my take on some of the things, because some of it's interesting because I don't think they were all designed at the same time. So we're going to give kind of my impressions on them, what I think about them so far. We're going to talk about the pre-order situation, how they went up and then they disappeared and it went away and, people sold out like that. And then we're going to talk about the price, and then we're going to kind of move on with our day. Should be pretty good. But before we do that, we do have to do a little bit of housekeeping. Last week, the Sit Down Saturday on the kind of recent events, the Kang Toys, man, I want to just reiterate to everybody in the comments that feels the same way I do. Like, I feel your pain. I am with you. Like, I have a feeling at this point we're never going to see that combined mode until the last bot comes along, and we just have to gamble until then. There's just no other option, it seems, and it's very depressing, and it better be rock solid or this company's reputation is going to be completely destroyed in one fell swoop. And there's some iffy things about it. There's a number of people that were bringing up TFC in the comments. It is to my understanding that the TFC folks are involved in the production of this thing, which isn't a good sign, by the way, but also that the design, to be clear, is from the old Toy World designs. Now, who actually designed them is anybody's guess, but Toy World is the one who had them, and then they, I think, sold them to Kang Toys. And still no word from Zeta, which is a real bummer. Dummies last week with the collection critiques. I'm just happy that everybody kind of gets it now. Like, that I don't have to fend that off anymore, that people understand that it's not about destroying people, it's about kind of being the tide that lifts all the ships. None of us are perfect. All of us are still learning. All of us learn things every day, like every week. And sometimes seeing what other people do can give you ideas, it can inspire you, and then other times it can tell you kind of what not to do. So both are sort of useful. And then lastly, this week in the Constructicons. Look, man, here's the thing. Since I started doing this, I have been consistent in providing 2 Transformer videos a week, every week for like 6 years. Actually, scratch that, 3, because at one point I let off of Fridays, but I still had a Sit Down Saturday that was about Transformers. So for 6 years, I have provided a Transformer video 3 times a week, like clockwork. You can set your clock to it. Paul C. was gracious enough to send a box the size of this table with all this stuff in it for me to go through. There was some stuff I wanted to go through. I wanted to look at the Kingdom Cyclonus. I wanted to look at the Mech Fanstoys tracks. I did not want to do the Devastator. However, Paul C. is a friend of mine. He wanted to hear the despair in my voice. I didn't have anything else lined up, so those 2 were literally the last 2 things that I could provide. So it came down to do no video or do these videos. And I hear from people all the time that are like, man, like I'm going through a tough spot or whatever, and I know I can count on that Monday, Wednesday review and that Saturday, people call it their Saturday cartoon, Sit Down Saturday. So while somebody in the comments wrote the dumbest thing that I've ever read, where he said, I messed up the transformations because I don't care because I'm in it for the money, I'm going to show you how much money I made off of that video. As you can see, I gained 1 subscriber from it. It gained less views, which does less for my algorithm, which actually hurts my channel, and I gained like $4 or $5 from it. The shipping of this box was around $20, I believe. So just to keep that in perspective. And what I make is none of his business. Nor is it any of yours, to be fair. But for the sake of conversation, I think it's worth showing. I could do a whole Sit Down Saturday on the YouTube process and the money and all that. If you guys would be interested, I would show it for the sake of conversation. I messed up transformation. I'm not even sure that I did. But if I did, it's because the designs are nonsensical. You can't tell what's a shoulder and an elbow. And they all look like the love child of a Bondi monster, a corkscrew, and a wuzzle. Also, they're from someone's collection. Some of them had instructions, some of them didn't. That video process, just for them, was about 3 hours. Shooting, editing, posting, etc. And I made $5, which I had to put towards shipping the box back to Paul C. Don't ever get me confused. You don't know me if you think that I'm doing this for the money. I would like to say that you're not a bozo, but you just have bozo tendencies, but you might be the whole bozo. And with that, let's get into the conversation and lighten the mood a bit with some toys that we were actually happy with seeing, and then we'll get a little heavier at the end when we talk about supply, demand, and money and so forth. So with that, let's take a look at the figures. So we'll start with Huffer. The good news is it looks fully painted. The silver looks painted, the light blue looks painted, the dark blue looks painted, and it looks painted with that metallic coating that we like so much from Fanstoys. To be fair, it looks like the orange is painted as well, but perhaps not all of it, bits and pieces. I would imagine that that has to do more so with the engineering, which is extremely interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine, the Patreon folks know who I'm speaking of, and he pointed out to me that the legs are actually the base of the front grille, and the tailgate is actually the brim of the robot hood. The doors that you see at the base of the window in truck mode end up becoming the feet, or should I say feet. So this is not your typical Huffer transformation. This is going to be pretty extra, and that's to keep the cleanliness of the cab in robot mode. It's what covers up the windows. It's how they sorted all that. Articulation, it's in the lower legs, but it is not in the upper body. As you can see, I don't think the shoulders can get out beyond 90 degrees. I actually don't think they can even reach 90 degrees, and that's because of them trying to match the cartoon accuracy with the way that the arms come out of the mid part of the torso, which, in my opinion, is G1 to a fault. In the same breath, if you look at the pelvis, it has the entire pelvis flap that lifts up, which is never the most attractive look for articulation, and something that would have been easily fixable by just having the two rotating flaps. The elbows do not appear to get beyond 90 degrees, and the whole ensemble there probably isn't the most attractive. And I say that because the picture of him holding the gun across his body is done very purposefully to cover up all of the bits between his shoulder and his torso. The good news is the lower body seems to be pretty well articulated. I do like the weapons and how they sort into the back of the truck mode. A small thing, but something that I do like. And it looks like it's going to come with an alternate face, kind of per usual, and be able to lock into the trailer. So kind of typical stuff there at $120. Let's continue. That takes us to Chump, which I was very excited to see because I wasn't sure we were ever going to get this guy. But let's have a more thorough look. So I'm guessing at minimum the green is going to be painted and the pink, or I don't know what the color that is. It wasn't in my Crayola box, I can tell you that much. But it looks like that's going to be painted. The gray might be painted as well. Sculpt looks on point. This is before the Hypertune accuracy phase. So a lot of the line work and details in the shoulders and chest really come through and provide a more interesting look for the character. The tail of the alligator is going to be stored in the calves of the robot. So I have a feeling that a lot of this is going to feel reminiscent of the Dinobots. But I do love the alligator mode. It has a lot of character in it. I don't think that the legs and arms are going to be able to do much. And yet somehow I also think that that's okay. Legs and arms of alligators don't do much in real life. But I do like the one kind of twisting, crouching pose with the alligator, because that does show a little bit of character is available there. Once again, because this is an older design of Fanstoys, it looks like we might have double jointed elbows, even though they don't show it off in any of the pictures. It looks like the engineering might be there. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is the outward movement of the shoulders, but with that little notch cut out, I have a feeling that it might be able to get 90 degrees out. There should be a waist swivel there. I don't see any reason why there shouldn't be. However, in the same breath, we don't see it being utilized in any of the pictures. Great ankle rockers. I'm guessing the knees will get you 90 degrees. Once again, I think this is a testament to the era in which this was designed, and it should probably feel kind of like the old school Glory Day era of Fanstoys. So this one I'm quite looking forward to. All right, so now let's talk about some of the kind of less fun things about it, right? So the pre-orders went up everywhere. They were sold out everywhere in inside of 20 minutes, I think. Specifically for Chomp. So let's talk about Chomp first. I think the production run on Chomp is lower. Now there's a rumor, gossipy thing kind of going around that they are doing lower production numbers as a result of pressure being placed on them by Hasbro. Let me just go on the record and say there's nothing about that sounds logical to me. There's nothing about that makes me want to support that in any way. I haven't heard any rumors or anything in my travels or in my inbox that has suggested anything remotely close to that. However, I think that they are right in the sense that the production numbers are lower. So why are the production runs lower? Enter the price point. This is a real option here, okay? I'm just going to lay this out. This is Skull Cruncher, right? This is not the creme de la creme. This is not a tier A character, right? This is not the Iconic Six. This is somebody who most people probably don't even know his name that are Transformer fans. What's the price point on this thing? $230, $240? I have a feeling that the profit margins on this are significantly larger. So they can produce less but rake in the same amount. So their bottom line doesn't actually change in terms of their profits. However, what they have to put out and put themselves on the line risk-wise is much lower. But I think they're underestimating their own value in the game in that regard. I think that they could have produced much larger figure counts and they could have sold them. And I think that the evidence is already there to support that. I think this is going to feel very overpriced when you get it in hand. But I think it's a tactical move on their part to make the same amount of money as if they did a full production run. They just didn't count on a full production run being successful. That's my guess. $230, that's a Hot Toy. I don't think this is Hot Toy standard. But while we're on the subject of price, let me go ahead and say this. When I started my job, I was making less than half of what I'm making now, right? And I was perfectly happy. Now, don't tell my employer this, but I would do my job now for less money than I'm doing it for. Because I like my job. I pre-ordered this thing. And let me tell you, I would have spent more than $230 for it. And you know what that means? That alongside with the fact that it sold out everywhere. You want to know what the harsh reality of that means? It means that they're still undervaluing their product in terms of price. It means that they could sell it for more. That's what that means. Now, that's a statement on us. That has totally, we have to take responsibility and accountability for that. The fans. I think they're able to capitalize off of a few things here. The fact that they've been gone for a while, the fact that it's the last member of a team, plus their own standard of reputation, and their really strong, dedicated fan base. Now, I'll tell you, the Huffer is a lot more in the category for me as the Jazz and the Mirage, where like, I'm going to get it because I'm going to support this company because I want them to do more product. I'm putting my wallet where my mouth is, like I'm speaking with my wallet. But at the same time, I'm not excited about it. I'm not sure I like it all that much better than the Bad Cube because I'm not crazy about the shoulders, right? It's G1 to a fault to me. There's things in G1 I think that look really dumb, and I would prefer the companies fix that and not do complete literal translations, but I understand that a lot of people want the literal translations, so that's why it's there. But there's something weird going on because we've never gotten color renders of Fanstoys images before, and then all of a sudden we get the Jazz and the Mirage. Like, it's just something seems out of sorts over there. And there's that elephant in the room of no dead end. And as I've said in the past, I'm pretty sure that it has to do with them not figuring out how to make the combiner work because the bots are so heavy. It was my concern from day one. I mentioned it here the very first time that they mentioned a combiner, and I've been consistent about it ever since. I think it's the same reason why we haven't seen arms from Superion, because they got this far along in the process of Minosaur and realized, oh no, the upper body's too heavy. And now they're holding back on the arms of Superion so that hopefully they can fix the problem and move forward, would be my guess. The people that are saying, where's Blitzwing and where's that, like, I think it's all in the same boat, that this stuff just doesn't work. I don't think the Blitzwing works. I don't think the combiners work, and I think they're trying to make it work because they have money invested in it. I think that they're actively working on it, but they're not holding back. What's not happening is they're making something that people want, and they know that they can get the money for it, and they're just holding back for the sake of holding back. That's what's not happening. They have to be holding back for a reason. And my guess is that reason is it doesn't work. We know the Blitzwing's been redesigned a couple times. We know that they've never done a combiner before, and we know that those bots are super heavy. It's like the skeleton needs to be made out of metal almost for it to work, in my opinion. But we'll see. But yeah, I do think this is a lower production run. I think that has a whole lot less to do with Hasbro and a whole lot more to do with their bottom line and their foresight in regard of how popular that character would be. The rig I do think is slightly overpriced, but I think it's in the ballpark. It doesn't seem like a slap in the face like that Chomp did. But at the same time, it's the market, it's supply demand, and it's sold out. It all sold out, which means they're still underpricing it. That's what that means. And I know you hate to hear it. Trust me, believe when I tell you, I hate to say it. But the good news is, a company that's been relatively quiet is now being loud again, and it's a company that most of us enjoy their pieces from, so I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. I got my pre-orders in. I'm ready to rock and roll. Hopefully, at the very least, they'll re-release for those folks that weren't able to get in. I know it's frustrating, and what Fanstoys has to be aware of, more so than anything else, is the frustration can turn the fan base away. I've recently heard a lot of people talk about the G.I. Joe line, that just because of availability, being able to get one, being able to track one down, people have turned away from that line completely. The same thing I've heard for the NECA TMNT line, the cartoon versions. People can't find them, people are scalping them, people are getting upset, and therefore they're just walking away from the whole line. If this is a consistent thing with Fanstoys, where everything's selling out in 20 minutes and nobody can get what they want, including new fans that are coming in, people will only put up with it for so long. So that's my warning to them. Anyway, that should do it for this week. Got a pretty interesting one for next week. Actually, the next couple are pretty interesting. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.